It was a rainy Thursday morning when Emily Parker's shift at the small corner cafe began. The clouds outside were low and gray, casting a soft shadow over the quiet street. She had been working at Harper's Cafe for 3 years, ever since she left her small hometown to try and make a life in the city. The cafe wasn't glamorous, but it was warm and smelled of coffee beans and cinnamon pastries, and to Emily it felt like a little pocket of comfort in a fast-moving world. She tied her apron, adjusted her hair in the reflection of the glass pastry case, and began the morning routine, wiping down tables, refilling sugar jars, and setting the day's fresh muffins in neat rows. The bell above the door jingled, and she looked up to see an elderly man shuffle inside. His coat was old and worn, frayed at the cuffs, and his shoes looked like they had weathered many winters. He held a wooden cane in one hand, and his back was slightly bent from age. His eyes, though pale and surrounded by fine lines, held a quiet gentleness. He approached the counter slowly, looking a little hesitant, as if unsure whether he belonged in the warm bustle of the cafe. "Good morning, sir," Emily said with a smile. "Can I get you something hot today?" He looked up and returned her smile softly. "Just a coffee, please. Nothing fancy." Emily nodded and rang it up, but she noticed the way he hesitated before reaching for his wallet. His fingers trembled slightly as he searched in the worn leather folds, and Emily could see there were only a few small bills inside. Before he could count them out, she gently placed her hand over the register. "Don't worry about it, sir. This one's on the house." He blinked as if surprised. "Are you sure, miss? I wouldn't want to trouble you." Emily smiled a little warmer. "It's no trouble at all. Everyone deserves a warm cup on a rainy day." The man's eyes softened, and for a moment they seemed to glisten with unspoken gratitude. "Thank you, my dear," he said quietly. "That is very kind of you." Emily poured him a fresh cup and brought it to his table by the window. He sat there for nearly an hour, sipping slowly, watching the rain trickle down the glass, and every now and then glancing toward her with an expression that seemed to hold both curiosity and thoughtfulness. Before leaving, he stood and walked to the counter again, leaning on his cane. "You've been very kind to me today," he said. "May I ask your name?" "Emily," she replied. He gave a small nod, as if tucking the name into a safe corner of his mind. Then, without another word, he left the cafe, disappearing into the rain. Emily didn't think much more of it. She had done what she always did when she saw someone in need: acts of kindness that didn't require thanks or recognition. Her life continued as it always did, busy with long shifts and quiet evenings at her small apartment. She dreamed of one day opening her own bakery, but for now the bills kept her tied to the cafe. A week later, on another overcast morning, the cafe was unusually full. A man in a dark tailored suit came through the door, scanning the room until his eyes landed on Emily. He walked up to the counter with an air of quiet authority. "Good morning," he said. "Are you Emily Parker?" "Yes," she replied, slightly nervous. "May I ask why?" He smiled faintly and handed her a crisp envelope. Inside was a neatly folded letter written in elegant handwriting. "Dear Miss Parker, it began last week. You offered me a simple act of kindness without knowing who I was. I am not simply an old man in a worn coat. My name is William Harrington. First, am the founder of Harrington Industries, and though my face is not often in the news, my name might be familiar to those who read financial pages. I have built a fortune over a lifetime, but I have also learned that true wealth is not in money but in the hearts of people like you who give without expecting anything in return." The man in the suit spoke then. "My employer, Mr. Harrington, asked me to personally deliver this letter to you, and this as well." He handed her a second envelope, thicker than the first. Emily opened it and gasped. Inside was a check written for $50,000. She looked up at the man, her mouth opening and closing in disbelief. "Mr. Harrington wishes to help you achieve whatever dream you hold closest to your heart," the man said. "He told me to tell you he remembers the way you smiled that day, and that your kindness reminded him of his late wife, who used to pay for strangers' meals without telling them." Emily felt her eyes sting with tears. She had never seen so many zeros on a check before, and the thought of someone giving her such a gift was overwhelming. But the letter wasn't finished. One more paragraph read, "I am an old man, and though my years are numbered, I find joy in seeing good people thrive. Use this for your bakery or for whatever brings you joy, and know that you have made an old man's rainy morning brighter than you you can imagine. Emily pressed the letter to her chest, speechless. Her manager, who had been watching in quiet surprise, came over asking if everything was all right. Emily told him the story, and soon the whole cafe seemed to hum with warmth. The news traveled fast, and by the next day locals came in to congratulate her, some even offering to help her plan her bakery. A few weeks later, Emily stood in a small storefront just a few blocks from the cafe, looking around at the space that would soon become Parker's bake shop. She painted the walls a soft cream color, set up glass display cases, and filled them with pastries she had perfected over the years. On opening day, a small crowd gathered, and among them, standing near the door, was Mr. Harrington himself, wearing the same worn coat and holding his cane. He smiled at her as she approached. "You didn't have to come," Emily said, her voice catching. He chuckled. "I wouldn't miss it for the world, my dear. You see, this shop is as much yours as it is mine in spirit." She hugged him gently, careful of his frailty. Customers flowed in that day, many drawn by the story that had made its way through the community, and as the years went by, Parker's Bake Shop became more than just a bakery. It became a place where kindness seemed to live in the very air, where regulars chatted over coffee and strangers became friends. Emily kept a small framed copy of Mr. Harrington's letter on the counter as a quiet reminder of the rainy morning that changed her life. Years later, when Mr. Harrington passed away peacefully in his sleep, Emily closed the shop for the day and baked a tray of his favorite scones, bringing them to a shelter in his honor. She had learned from him that kindness was a legacy one could pass on, far more valuable than money, and every time it rained and an older customer came in, she made sure to pour their coffee on the house, just as she had done for the man who turned out to be a billionaire looking for nothing more than a little warmth on a gray morning.